Hello everyone, my name is Arash. As you know, on this channel, we typically do impressions of movies, usually the first day that they come out. It's usually a combined video with me and Zach. However, I moved recently and Zach wasn't able to get to an early showing, so I saw the movie a little earlier than him, and due to a stream that we're actually going to be doing on X2 later, he couldn't necessarily get to it. So, number one, this is just going to be my impressions. You're going to see Zach's up probably tomorrow. And number two, go watch our X2 stream. It's going to be a fun time. We're probably already doing it by the time you see this video. So thank you and enjoy the video. So I just walked out of watching Captain America Brave New World, and to be honest, my initial thoughts was that the movie was fine. We saw some earlier reviews where it seemed to not really impress the early reviews just as much. And looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score, you would have thought, oh dang, the MCU has reached new lows and it can't possibly get more worse than this. When I actually sat down and watched through the movie, my thoughts were, this is fine. This is completely okay. It's nothing that we haven't seen before from the MCU, which I feel like was a big pain point for a lot of people, but that's actually the thing that we need right now, is something at least that returns us to the normalcy of the regular MCU, or something at least that kind of harkens back to the days of the Infinity Saga. And also, especially considering that the Marvels kind of did burn a lot of goodwill with a lot of MCU fans, I feel like this new movie, at least for people, will kind of return them to that Winter Soldier vibe that they were shooting for. And it is there. It's bleeding all over the movie. Is this political espionage thriller where Captain America is in a race against time to stop the bad guy from taking over or manipulating the world into chaos purely out of a grudge. So my thoughts on this movie are, it's completely fine. It's good. It's regular MCU stuff. It's a Marvel movie. You go in expecting what you're going to get. It's like going to a McDonald's in a different part of the world and you know you're going to get a Big Mac and it's going to taste the same as it does in America. It's kind of like that. But I'm going to get into some spoilers here just to highlight some certain parts of the movie that I initially thought were okay, bad, middling, so-so. So if you haven't clicked off already, click off now. Here's your warning. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so getting right into the spoilers, we see that the leader is indeed, Samuel Stearns from the Incredible Hulk movie. In fact, the entire movie has the Incredible Hulk kind of echoing in there because that's the last movie where Ross really was an important central character. Sure, he popped up in Civil War and Avengers and all that, but that's more of him being the push, the official government stance, because they wanted to have him there. He was just a side character to everybody else. But in this movie, General Ross, or President Ross, is the main character next to Sam Wilson's Captain America. That's why they have him so prevalent on the posters. If you thought they were really just doing a marketing push to get people in theaters because, boom, Red Hulk's in this movie, you should check it out. I mean, that's part of it. But no, this movie is also technically an Incredible Hulk sequel, kind of. So there's several points throughout the movie where this is essentially Sam Wilson's first outing as Captain America, and this is like his first test. Like kind of when Steve Rogers had his test back in Captain America and the First Avenger, but only Steve Rogers had a war to fight in World War II, where you knew who the good guys and bad guys were. This movie is kind of a modern reflection of that kind of film, because there is no war to fight where you know you're the good and the bad guy. In modern political terms, it's all very much in a big gray area. That's how modern political thrillers are. There's something in the government and, you don't know who to trust, and there's secrets and everyone has hidden motives, that kind of deal. It's not as black and white as Steve Rogers, which was much more easier to understand. He fought Nazis. He was a US military member during the War of the Greatest Generation. That's very easy to understand. You kind of get him on that. Sam Wilson has to be a Captain America in modern America. I mean, also Steve had to be a Captain America in modern America, but like in modern political terms. He also was it in Winter Soldier too, but it didn't really focus on the politics of the White House that much, because I don't even really think Captain America even met the President of the United States on screen. I think it was all sort of in the background, that kind of deal. So this is Sam Wilson's first go at it. And actually, to Anthony Mackie's credit, he does make Sam Wilson still, awesome. Falcon, still the same character. He just he just changed costumes now. He is Captain America, and he takes on the responsibility of that. And the movie sees him tackling with that still. Falcon and the Winter Soldier did touch on it a lot of the time, but this is now on a much grander scale because he is directly involved in international politics. And especially since Ross is the president now and he has to answer to him, and he wants him to rebuild the Avengers, which in a previous video that we covered, yeah, I was kind of correct on the fact that they just touched on it a smidge. Nothing else was really brought on upon the fact. The only thing that was really wrong about is that Ross and Sam's relationship was going to be not that great. They're still fine, of course, but Sam kind of at the end of the movie goes, yeah, we need to rebuild the Avengers. So I feel like they're going to continue on that path where Sam is kind of be looking out and trying to recruit members of a new team. But that's probably going to happen off screen. We're not going to have a whole bunch of like Sam Wilson's going to pop off in the post-credit scenes in the next 3 movies, and we're going to see him just rounding up people to join the Avengers. I don't think that's going to happen at all. We just frankly do not have that time anymore before Doomsday happens. We have 2 to 3 movies left before that happens. We also get some idea of where Bucky is during all this. We see that he is actually running for Congress, which kind of a weird turn considering he's going to show up in the Thunderbolts. So maybe off screen that congressional run doesn't go too hot for him, considering that the movie is coming out, you know, in 3 months next to Captain America. I don't know what they're trying to do here with that. Like, imagine in this movie they say, oh, Bucky's running for Congress, he's the next congressional runner, and then he just loses that congressional run because of all of his Winter Soldier crap, like dragging him down. I think that's something, but I don't even know why they would attempt that. So that's all there. And then there's some other key parts where we see Sam tackling with, and characters keep bringing this up during the movie, is the idea of him not taking the super soldier serum because that comparison to him and Steve Rogers, like he's going to try to live up to that fact. And really in that speech to Bucky when he shows up, it's actually, funnily enough, he says to him, people looked up to him, but people aspire to be you, or some crap like that. And it's a really inspirational speech. It's essentially, I think it's just Bucky kind of just giving Sam the okay to just kind of do whatever he wants, because he says, no one will ever look at you that way, whether you take the serum or not. You don't need to take the serum. And then later in the fight with Red Hulk, Sam says like a quick stinger line where he's just like, oh, Bucky was lying, I should have taken that shit. Had my whole theater laughing. That was a good line, I'll be entirely honest with you. But we kind of see Sam accept that idea that he does need to take the serum, that he does not necessarily need to take it just to live up to Captain America, but purely out of a necessity standpoint. He needs to be able to take on these otherworldly mutated threats, especially. And during the Red Hulk fight, we see aspects of it that Red Hulk tore his armor to shreds, and it was made out of vibranium. And we can see what vibranium could do. It can last for a lot of other threats, but this is Sam's first time going toe-to-toe against the Hulk, and he ripped apart his armor like it was nothing. So I think Sam's gonna try to, at least, he's gonna accept the fact that he is the new Captain America. He doesn't need to live up to Steve Rogers, but he does need to take the serum purely as a risk management thing. Like, you gotta have some extra stuff. Your Kevlar armor can do wonders in a firefight, but it can't really do much against superpowered aliens, people with time travel powers. You're going to be dealing with a whole bunch of things. It's the Marvel universe. You need to amp up whatever you can. So I think it's fine. If Sam takes the serum, it doesn't matter to me because it won't degrade him being Captain America. He's already proven that he can be. It's a mantle to live up to. Also, Steve just kind of gave it up because, you know, he wanted his dance with Peggy, and that was it. Aside from that tangent, overall, the film was fine in certain parts. The first 2 acts were fine, albeit dragged a bit in some parts, but the last third act was great. Everything started to pace up. One minor complaint that I had was that the movie was kind of too dark in places. Like, it was that same issue with Game of Thrones where I think that the person who directed it, or the person in charge of cinematography, just had to have everything in darkness. In certain parts, I get it was to obfuscate the leaders, like CGI in a bit, and there were some weird aspects where you could totally see that they were just trying to manipulate the photo so it kind of looks off, or like certain camera angles, or trying to hide it, because he does have a CGI head and you can see that in certain instances, and in other instances where it kind of looked cheap, you could tell that in the reshoots that they did, they kind of just hid it. So they had him like wearing a hat, wearing a hoodie, in darkness, in a weird camera angle, all these certain things. And then in the other spots where they could get the CGI done, or they could focus more of the budget towards his like appearance, he's just out and about in bright daylight. You can see it and it looks fine. That's a clever trick. That's okay. There was a bit towards the end fight, you see like Sam reaching out to the Red Hulk because he does talk him down, because they keep repeatedly hammering over and over and over again that Sam can talk people down. He's a good talker. That's his strength compared to Steve, is that's his superpower. He can essentially just talk you down or talk sense into you. And he does talk Red Hulk down, and you do see Harrison Ford in like shirtless, and it kind of looks whack. But of course the man's 70 years old. I'm not expecting him to be fully ripped under there. But he does try to talk him down, and it looks very obviously like that was one of the reshoots. Like they could not shoot in that backdrop again, or the entire sequence was CGI'd to shit. They had him just like standing in front of a green screen taking certain parts of his speeches, because it looks very obviously green screen. Very obviously it does. Once you notice it, you're like, oh yeah, he is not talking to Harrison Ford right now. He is talking directly to the camera. All that stuff aside, because there were extensive reshoots on this thing, definitely probably parts where the script couldn't pick up, so they had to adjust it as much as possible. And if you understand the Marvel creation standpoint, is that what they do is they take movies and they reshoot them, and they schedule those reshoots so that they could redo parts of the movie, see what works. Because when you watch the movie, you can take a second go at it, you can do a rough draft. So that's why they do the reshoots. So yeah, overall, I think the movie was fine. I don't get the Rotten Tomatoes score. I get it for Quantumania. I understand it for the Marvels. For this movie, it's serviceable. If I had to kind of equate it to something, I would put it above Thor: The Dark World in a sense. I would do it. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing that's gonna completely wow everybody, but it's standard fun Marvel fare. I liked the movie. I liked it. I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. If I have to put it here, I would say definitely take a shot at the movie first. Everything is subjective. All art is subjective. And if you're just gonna spend your time watching the reviews and then judging the movie purely off the review, you're judging the movie off the opinion of somebody that you don't know. So you don't know what certain things that they're specifically looking for. You don't know what things I'm looking for in a movie. We can tell you about them, but there might be parts of the movie that you yourself enjoy that I didn't really pick up on. If my advice is anything, go out, watch the movie for yourself, take a stab at it, and you come to your own conclusion. But I enjoyed it for what it was, and I hope that you take that with you. So, goodbye everyone.